But casual sexism is rampant everywhere in all our workplaces. You can't choose your relatives and neighbors. Thank God we can choose our friends. So you can't choose your bosses either.
Hello and welcome to the Secretariat. We have with us today Nirupama Kotru, who's Chief Commissioner of Income Tax in Mumbai. She's a 1992 batch of IRS officer. She's held many posts in the past. She's been with the Revenue Department, she's been with the Ministry of Coal, she's handled culture, she's been with INB. It's great to have you with us today, Nirupama. Thank you for joining us.
So first of all, thanks, Mama. Thank you for having me on your program today. It's always a pleasure to talk about women in the workforce. I try to participate in at least one program every year, and I do write about women, in different sectors. Fortunately, also in my career in government, I've had an opportunity to work in different sectors, which I'll tell you about. Because you asked me how things have changed.
Nirupama, let's start this conversation with your journey as a young civil service official. You joined the profession in the early 1990s. I'm sure things must have been extremely different then when you compare it with today. Can you just give us a little background of the changes that you've seen in all these years, actually in all these decades?
So I joined in 92, and when I joined, when I asked people how civil services is as a career, I remember I asked a counselor in DU, Delhi University, and I also spoke to some seniors, some retired officers. So they said central services, especially because Shobna Narayan, if you remember the Kathak dancer, she was from customs. So he said central services suits most women because you get posted to metros and typically not. Of course, there are smaller stations also, but by and large, women can manage their home, family. तब तो ये these terms were not there, na work-life balance. These came much later. But he said that you'll be able to manage your work. And the counselor and you told me if you're interested in arts, because I was always very passionate about music, dance, all these things, cultural programs. So he said if you want to pursue passions like that, civil service is a good option. Because all said and done, let me be fair and tell you that promotions are more or less on based on seniority, and if you have by and large had a good record, clean record, you get your promotion. So I have seen the corporate sector closely because my husband was in a foreign bank, and I've seen a lot of whitewashing being done when you come to gender parity and token feminism, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You have certain women in leadership positions just to look good, especially a firm like an American firm, because they have these
Absolutely.
norms. They have to fulfill
True.
their norms. So in
Absolutely.
government, I would say yes. Sometimes I have felt there are biases. There are biases when it comes to certain postings which are seen as tough or not suitable for women. But thankfully, that's changing. I've seen a tremendous change over 30 odd years now. It's been more than 30 years. I think things are really changing a lot. So I can tell you about different sectors because my parent card is income tax, but then on deputation, I worked in INB ministry. I've seen media very closely, and because I write
Yes.
about cinema, I have done a lot of programs about not just participation of women in media, but also depiction of women because there are two aspects which are both are very important. And then I was in culture ministry, so I've looked at our cultural institutions very closely. And of course, my last posting on deputation was I've been in corporate affairs also. And my last posting was in coal ministry as a financial
Yes.
advisor, additional secretary financial advisor with additional charge of mining and minority affairs. So I have seen this sector, coal and mining, so closely, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised that to find women in leadership positions. That sector is really breaking. That when we call about breaking the glass ceiling, that sector is so important. I didn't know. It was an eye opener for me and a very pleasant experience.
So what you said, Nirupama, makes a lot of sense. You said your counselor, your mentor actually said that you should join a particular department because that gives you room to really juggle between home and office. I mean, work-life balance, as you said, did not really have a major meaning back then. Do you see that mindset changing with women professionals coming in today? Now, if we take your example, your home is in Delhi, you live in Mumbai, you've been in Pune. How have you juggled life? How have you juggled your work life and your personal life?
So I see, as in government, see every sector, basically your postings and who are your bosses, it depends on sheer luck, destiny. As I think it was the king of Nepal who said you can, you can't choose your relatives and neighbors. Thank God we can choose our friends. So you can't choose your bosses either. So I have seen misogyny. It's not like I haven't. In fact, government again, I would say, is one of the better sectors. Nice when people actually appreciate you. And on deputation, I found that, when you do the same work as a generalist, people respect you a lot because you've come out of your comfort zone. So people know that you are striving to be, at par with everybody else. So sometimes you have to be tough.
A few years ago, I mean, especially when you began, like maybe in the 1990s, many women actually wanted to join the civil services because the notion, the perception was that it's a cushy job. It's always nice to have a government job because it gives a lot of headroom to a woman. Do you see that bit changing?
To some extent, yes, because one major factor I think is social media. People are very scared that somebody will out them or take a reel or something. So in a way, it's amusing, but that kind of casual sexism in office, I think, has gone down. People are a little bit more careful about what they say in the presence of women. They don't make very cheap jokes. Being in a senior position, I'm at an advantage. Nobody junior to me would dare to say something like that in my presence. So I feel that it's a win-win to have more women in senior positions because the women who are your subordinates, they feel so comfortable. They know this office is a safe space. And I've seen that wherever I go, I always encourage them, just come, my door's always open. Even if I'm not head of that internal complaint committee, doesn't matter. I think it's a great comfort because when I was young, I didn't have many women bosses. So, and I mean, they can also not be very nice sometimes, but I find that at least I try to give back and I try to say, look, if you are here, nobody dare misbehave with you. And let me know if they do.
Nirupama, my next question to you is government job, civil services. People do everything that they can to really get into these services. Why is it that the attrition level, the attrition rate is rising? Why are more and more people opting for VRS?
I think it's that our aspirations keep changing as the economy evolves, the polity evolves. As a country, as we are maturing, these are just phases. And yes, earlier civil service was seen as your passport to lifelong success and prestige. Even now, there is a lot of comfort in a government job because it's like for life, usually. You just can't get fired, unlike in a private job. That is the greatest comfort, the provident funds and pension and all that. Those are still attractive, but they a couple of policy changes here and there, like the new pension scheme, where when it came, it put off a lot of our juniors, and now they have brought back a UPS. But time to time, I have seen aspirations change, and civil services children, very few of them are coming back to civil services. Why? Because a lot of them go abroad. A lot of our kids are abroad, studying abroad. They see, more avenues opening up. They see different sectors, and in India also, we've had a boom. Earlier, working in even the fashion industry or food, it's become a huge industry now. I have an IAS officer colleague of mine whose daughter became a DJ. At that time, it was unheard of. We couldn't imagine. And she became a top DJ in, I think, NCR, Delhi NCR. So, when we were young, I could never imagine a bureaucrat's daughter becoming a DJ. It was unthinkable. Now, there's so
This taboo
many
kind
job
of a thing.
opportunities. Absolutely. Acting. We have so many bureaucrats children, who will becoming actors or just taking sports as a career. So I think it's just increased awareness that there are many other, horizons to explore. Why are you stuck here? It's not for everybody. No? Sometimes some people may think it's very, tough to work, especially because you have to deal with the political leadership as well. You have to balance that. You have to be good at not oratory but public speaking, and not uh, I would say putting forward the correct image of what the government is doing. We have to at all times be careful about that. So uh, I think it's just aspirational more than anything else. People are finding better things to do.
Now, let's talk a little about training. When you had your training, again, way back in the early 1990s, I'm sure things were very different from what it is today. Of course, now we have AI, we have different formats. How do you see the change happening in all these decades? What do you think should be further changed? What do you think has really worked? What do you think really hasn't worked? Both ways.
Actually, not just in my service or whatever training we did, our basic training is very essential and very simple and basic, fundamental in that sense, because we have a foundational course in which for my batch, part of my batch was in Mussoorie, where all services meet and spend 2.5 months together. And later we have a professional training 1.5 years. So those are very well structured because they want to make officers out of young boys and girls. I was one of the youngest to join. I was just 23. So they're very well designed, I would say. We are fortunate in that sense. And the stress was more on esprit de corps, as they called it, and more on trekking together, doing these really tough treks, or a village visit where we stayed with villagers and looked into their problems. That is much more important where character building is concerned, where getting to know real India is, because you go and live in a village for 10 days to 2 weeks. Those were essential, and those can't be done away with or replicated outside of that real life. So AI can't touch these fields when it comes to actual training in the field, especially for a civil servant. And but having said that, let me also tell you that that foundation training apart, I think training is improving in a way, but also not improving in my service and in government. In some senses, it's because of these technological tools. I think sometimes you do lose the essence of what you're trying to convey to somebody who's just joined the service. I think more refresher courses are needed. And I think rather than IQ, you need EQ training. I think that's being missed out. When I was young, I remember doing a couple of leadership courses. They really changed my thinking because they kind of tell you how to deal with your subordinates and how every
The government has been particularly keen on women led development. The government has been talking about pushing women at strategic locations for strategic posts. But how do you see this change really taking shape? Do you think there is requirement for policy or regulatory changes to ensure that the women's participation really is increased? What is your thought on that?
Yeah, there are policy related issues. For example, in mining, I was telling you, I was just trying to remember. I remember I had been invited to this intergovernmental forum on mining in Geneva, which is held under the UN in November 2022, and they said we want women in mine. We want leaders who are women in mining. So I had an opportunity to represent mining ministry, and actually, what I informed them, they were very happy to know that in India we've had some really good policy changes. I'll just tell you what exactly it was. So, there is a leading mining institute in India. There's only one actually. It's called Indian Institute of Mines in Dhanbad, which is under IIT. They had a mining engineering course, but women were never encouraged to join it. A reason was that labor laws were not allowing women to work beyond a certain time in mines at all. Initially, bilkuli they were not allowed, and later also they said that other than soft jobs, like supervisory, managerial, इसमें डाल दो. So till 2017, there were no women enrolling only. And in 2021, when I joined this sector, coal and mining, I met some women. They said, ma'am, we are part of the first batches which are coming out. And then over 4 years, I saw a change. And I was so happy because of this 2019 law which they brought in. They now say owner of a mine can deploy a woman between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. in any mine above ground. And underground mine may also they can deploy them, but in technical and supervisory roles. This was a huge change. And when I told this in UN, they were very happy. They said, I mean, India has really done something progressive, but many countries don't have such. So imagine these women are doing blasting. They're actually there. And these are the toughest jobs: construction, mining, blasting. You can't get tougher than this. So I was so thrilled. I met a lot of young girls who were mining, who were heading those mines. I remember one, of course, Coal India has its mines in Dhanbad. I met in near Udaipur, there are some mines of Hindustan Zinc where I was a director. I met this girl, and her senior told me, ma'am, since she heads this mine, there's an attitudinal change here. People used to curse so much, the language was so foul. Now everyone watches their mouths because she heads the mine. I said, this is amazing. That's what we are talking about. Having
Absolutely.
one woman with so many men under her, sab sudhar gaye, as we call.
How has your experience been as a woman boss?
I think it's been great because frankly, I don't discriminate, but then wherever required, I try to be sensitive to women who work with me, especially those, who've had children recently. And luckily, government is a very good employer that way. They have a good maternity leave. We even have a paternity leave, but that is something people scoff at. I don't understand why they think it's a joke. I encourage all my subordinates to take it. I've just had one of my officers, he had a baby, and I keep asking him, aren't you taking your paternity leave? And he said, oh, ma'am, but I'm saving it because my baby was, premature born. So though 15 days is allowed. So I don't see why it's a joke that the man is also a nurturer. Men should
Absolutely.
also be allowed to step up. So I think if you ask my subordinates, they're pretty happy, all of them, whether men or women, hopefully.
My last question, Nirupama. What would be that one piece of advice that you would like to give to a woman officer who is either just joined or a woman aspirant who's really looking to get into civil services? That one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think it would be to, from day one, make sure that you are heard. Because many times I found when I was younger, people tend to suppress your voice, especially when you're a woman. They tend to not, it's always a boys' club. Wherever you go, whether it's the government or private sector, there are always boys' clubs and you're excluded because as a woman, I never network. I go to office, I come home and I attend to whatever I have to do at home. So I miss out
True.
on all the whining and dining which apparently happens in every sector.
Absolutely.
So there's no networking. We have a big huge disadvantage. But to combat that, work is the only way. I mean, your work should speak for you, and you should not take any bullshit from anyone. I think as when I was younger, I possibly did take more than I should have, and did not speak up because nobody is there to, nobody has your back. But obviously in senior management position I am more comfortable, and but I like to support others also. I think they should just hold their head high and never give in, and always ask for what you want. Unless you ask, nobody is going to give it to you. Nobody is going to hand out anything, whether it comes to your leave or we have a great childcare leave also. But
Hmm.
people are so hesitant. Initially, they were so hesitant. Ki, should I take it? Yeah, now they are all taking it because it's allowed up to when your child is 18 years. So it's helped a lot of women who wanted to, stay at home because their children have boards. I think they should just speak up, demand, ask for something, and especially misbehavior, they should not tolerate at all. And ask for facilities. These are very basic things. But I have worked in offices over my long career where after 6 p.m. there was no loo to go to. Can you believe it? I had to sit till 7 once, and all there was one bathroom somewhere up, and that was locked. What do you do? These are basic facilities. There weren't enough
Basic
clean
facility.
rooms for women. And it's the same in media. My friends in media, when I did these workshops, I heard of horrible conditions, especially in television serials those
Yeah.
days, earlier days. 16-hour shifts, no news, no nothing, no support, nobody to drop you home. Quite crazy. So those things shouldn't happen. And you shouldn't take that kind of nonsense. You have to stand up for yourself because nobody else will stand up for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nirupama, for
Thank you,
joining us. It
Mohan.
was
It was a
lovely chatting
pleasure.
up with you. Hope to catch up with you soon. Thank you very much.